I was alive in 1983. I was there for the insane, crazy doll obsession that was Cabbage Patch Kids. Maybe you were too. And if so, then you totally get it. But if you weren't, well, then you're in for a weird treat today, because today we're telling you all about the Cabbage Patch Kids. Oh, and this one, it really is a weird treat. Welcome, everyone, to Rewind Toys. I'm Jason Emmett, and today we're talking about dolls. Dolls that, aside from maybe Barbie, might be the most famous dolls of all time. Really? So it was like Raggedy Ann, and then American Girl, and then Cabbage Patch? Well, that's interesting. I never would have guessed. So let's go back like over 50 years to the 1900s. I hate saying that so much. It's 1974, and a folk artist by the name of Martha Nelson is busy making dolls. Here's the thing. These dolls, they weren't like any doll prior to them. Each doll was unique. No two dolls from Martha were alike. They had a very specific look to them, and Martha had also come up with this really interesting concept. You see, you didn't just get a doll, you adopted one of them. She called them little doll babies, and each came with a packet filled out with the doll's name and details that told you about the doll's personality. So Martha was taking her dolls to craft shows and fairs, and it was at one of those fairs that a man named Xavier Roberts would purchase a few of these dolls. Roberts then made an arrangement to sell Martha's dolls out of a gift shop in Georgia. But after a little while, Martha realized she wasn't too happy with the way things were going. She felt that Roberts was overcharging people and kind of misrepresenting her brand. So she decides to take her dolls back. Now, Xavier Roberts didn't really seem to care for that, and he decided he was going to create his own line of dolls, which he did, taking full credit. So Roberts first began producing soft sculpted dolls just like Martha Nelson's, but the designs, well, they sure did look a lot like Nelson's little baby dolls. Roberts also marketed these dolls, which would eventually be called Cabbage Patch Kids, but we'll get there. He marketed these as dolls you would adopt rather than buy. They came with a name and an adoption certificate. Now, Roberts claiming he had come up with the idea was clearly not true, and at some point Martha Nelson did seek legal counsel. Roberts then admitted he was inspired by Nelson's dolls, but tried to say he changed them. Anyway, it went to trial for several years, and in the end, a settlement was reached. So originally, Roberts called his dolls Little People dolls. Seriously, like, he was selling the dolls out of a place he dubbed Babyland General Hospital, an old medical clinic he and friends turned into a toy store. The dolls were becoming extremely popular, and that caught the attention of a designer and a licensing agent named Roger L. Schlafer. Now, Schlafer had a dream. He wanted to build the first and largest mass-market children's brand in history. It was Schlafer and his wife who came up with the idea of Cabbage Patch. The name Little People was already owned by Fisher-Price, so they couldn't really do that. I'm surprised they didn't try. So why Cabbage Patch Kids? Well, the name itself is believed to have come from a series of these bizarre French postcards known as repopulation cards. These cards showed weird scenes depicting babies, things like babies hatching from eggs, babies being harvested like plants, and yes, babies being born in a cabbage patch. Those cards are some really creepy
Nope.
Right there. I mean, they're creepy. So they took the Cabbage Patch idea and created this backstory where Xavier Roberts discovered this baby patch one day in the mountains of Georgia after following a bumble bunny. That's a creature, half bumblebee, half bunny. I mean, you get it. Roberts, being the hero that he was, knew that if he didn't find homes for these children, they would be forced to work the gold mines under the evil Lavender McDade and her partners Cabbage Jack and Bo Weasel. Really bizarre. Like, it's just kind of a weird backstory. I'm just saying. At any rate, that weird backstory and weird concept worked. Roberts and Schlafer, who were turned down by a bunch of companies, finally landed a deal with Coleco in 1982. Coleco then took the dolls to their design team, where famed doll designer Judy Albert would change the heads from cloth to vinyl, would cuten them up just a bit, and have new packaging designed. And then it exploded. It exploded. Cabbage Patch Mania hit its stride in 1983 with people flocking to stores to adopt one of these adorable little dolls. And let me tell you, this was bonkers, people. It was bonkers. There were fistfights and riots breaking out. I'm not making any of this up. This is all real. This happened. Stores were selling out as fast as they could get these dolls in. And Coleco, well, they hadn't been ready for that demand. They actually canceled advertising for the dolls in an attempt to keep up as they hit a record 3.2 million doll sales. In 1984, Cabbage Patch Kids branded items would generate over $2 billion in retail sales. That's cereal, books, clothes, stickers, even diapers. From 1983 through 1986, the Cabbage Patch dolls made bank. And then they didn't. In 1985, the dolls actually peaked in sales at over $600 million, and Coleco had borrowed heavily against that popularity to expand the line. But it was an expansion they might not have been ready for. As the Cabbage Patch craze began to waver and sales of the toys began to do poorly, Coleco was forced to file bankruptcy in 1988. Because of that, the company was forced to sell their licensing, and Hasbro, they were quick to jump in and snatch it up. Now, Hasbro would produce various versions of the doll, including Birthday Kids, Splash and Tan Kids, and Pretty Crimp and Curl Kids. They would do this until 1994, when Mattel would acquire the rights. In 2001, Toys R Us obtained the rights. In 2004, Jakks Pacific, and Wicked Cool Toys in 2015. And all of them had some version of the Cabbage Patch Kids out there. Hey guys, if you are watching this show right now and you haven't hit the subscribe button, you really should. I really want you to, and it would be fun. Anyway, we appreciate you coming every week, so please do us a favor, hit that subscribe button. Yeah, that's it. In a funny turn of events, Xavier Roberts' company, Original Appalachian Artworks, they've actually gone on to actively sue several companies for infringing versions of the doll, which seems very ironic to me. Now, unfortunately, Martha Nelson passed away in 2013. She actually continued selling her art and her dolls for her entire life, and her work has been exhibited at the High Museum of Art in Atlanta. She never became rich like Xavier Roberts, but from all accounts, she lived a good life and eventually was given the recognition she deserved for the Cabbage Patch Kids. Now, being as young as I was in 1983, Cabbage Patch Kids were my first experience in the toy craze phenomenon. My family was actually on a waiting list. I remember this very well, and it took months for us to get dolls. My sister and I both had one. Yes, I owned a Cabbage Patch Kid. Like I said, it took us months, but I know people that actually even had to wait longer than that, like up to a year for some people. Sales over the years have remained steady, not like 1980s numbers, but steady. And Babyland General Hospital, well, it's still there, and you can go and visit. A lot of people do. Admission is free, and if you happen to be near Cleveland, Georgia, you might as well go. And that, my friends, is the strange and twisted tale behind the Cabbage Patch Kids. As always, I want to thank you guys for stopping by. Hope to have you back again next time. Leave it in the comments if you had a Cabbage Patch Kid or you remember the craze at all. And remember, when it comes to collecting those vintage toy fads, the hunt, that's half the fun.